My name's Stephen Williams. I'm Vice President in Corporate Development and Investor Relations for Bluestone Resources. I'd like to take the next 10 minutes and tell you about our permitted high-grade gold project that we purchased from Goldcorp 2 years ago for $18 million. During this presentation, I will be making some forward-looking statements and some cautionary language around that. So Cerro Blanco, like I mentioned, it's a permitted gold project that we acquired from Goldcorp. High-grade asset, 1.5 million ounces at 10 grams per ton. Goldcorp invested over $200 million on the project throughout their time that they had it. They developed over 3 kilometers of underground development as part of that. We were fortunate enough to be able to acquire it, and since then we've been advancing it towards construction and getting it ready for production. We look to do that starting next year. When we acquired the asset out of Goldcorp, Goldcorp had another operating mine in the country in Guatemala called Marlin. Marlin was shutting down, coming to the end of its mine life, and as a result, it just didn't make sense for them to stay in the country for this development asset. Our executive chairman, John Robbins, knew the Goldcorp guys through selling Kaminak to them in 2016 for $520 million. And through that relationship, he was able to purchase Cerro Blanco. We raised $80 million as part of that acquisition, and that's where the Lundin family and CD Capital came in as our largest shareholders. Since then, we've had a number of analysts down to site, and they've picked up coverage on the project, and pretty high target prices there at $2.71. So over the last 2 years, we've been focusing on advancing and de-risking the project, starting with the geology. So we went back and redid all the structural geology of the deposit. We, relogged all the core and then did an infill drill program as part of that as well. And with all of that, it fed into an updated resource estimate that ultimately fed into a feasibility study that we delivered earlier this year in January. We continue to do further infill drill program and underground mining activities as we advance our project financing discussions. As I mentioned, we're down in the southeastern part of Guatemala. I've got a short video that I'll show next here to give you a bit better of an idea of the country, the project, the infrastructure in place. And I'll play that now. So this is Guatemala City. I'd never been to Guatemala before. I started with Bluestone, and I was quite surprised. You land in Guatemala City, there's glass skyscrapers, it's clean, it's a modern city. We've got the Pan-American Highway to site. It's about a 2.5-hour drive outside of Guatemala City. You'll see it here, that we drive down to a town called Ascension Mita. Ascension Mita is our base of operations. It's about 20,000 people. We stay in the town while we work down there. We've got a house, and we're part of the local community. This is the access road to the town. And then outside of the town, the project sits about 6 kilometers along a dirt road. And you'll see it here. The deposit sits in that hill. And then you can see some of the infrastructure that's already in place as part of that $200 million investment. And Guatemala itself is a good place to do business. We've recently had presidential elections. A new president's going to take office in January. He was voted in on a platform for foreign investment, so there's a heavy focus on mining investment, textiles, call centers, and agriculture. If you look at their fiscal policy, they've had a stable currency over the last 10 years. And their credit rating's BB, which when you compare that to some other mining jurisdictions, it's quite favorable. And so all of those make for a positive business environment. This is some of the drilling that we were doing earlier on in the year. We've been quite active underground with the 3 kilometers of underground development. We had some mining equipment that we picked up from Goldcorp as part of that acquisition, and it allows us to play around and scratch the surface underground. We've got a water treatment plan in place as well, so any water that we come in contact with, we treat before we discharge that to the environment. And this is something that's unique, especially to a gold company, is we've got a geothermal project located east of the mine that was included as part of that acquisition. and Goldcorp spent about $60 million on that, drilling 19 geothermal wells, and we were doing some work on that previously last year as well. So a little bit about the feasibility study that we put out in January. Robust economics with an all-in sustaining cash cost of sub $600 an ounce, an IRR of 34%, and an NPV of $241 million. When you start looking at that at the current gold price, it's almost a 50% IRR. And the cash flows that this project will kick out in the first 3 years of production will average $90 million a year. That's more than the current market cap of the company today, and it all comes down to grade and margins. And with those kind of margins, you can generate and develop a real business from, and that's what we're looking to do. So our president and CEO, Darren Klink, came from Oceana Gold, where he was part of that executive team that developed Oceana from a single asset producer to a multi-asset, multi-billion-dollar company. And the opportunity that he saw when he came to join Oceana, join Bluestone as we all did, was the opportunity to build a real business from. And that's ultimately the goal and his vision. A little bit about the resource. So we put out an updated resource 2 weeks ago, and we were successfully in converting about 200,000 ounces into M&I, and ultimately we'll be able to convert that into a mine plan. And we're pretty excited about that from the regard that it'll add 1 to 2 years of mine life, and every year of mine life that we add to this project is another $60 to $80 million in free cash flow. So it's pretty meaningful. A little bit about the broader exploration potential. So we have been focused on the near-term deposit and in the area of the red circle there, which has been the focus for the infill drill program over the last 6 months. But as you can see, north of that, there's some good geochemical soil anomalies and some previous drilling that have hit some pretty exciting intercepts. And at some point in time, we'll follow up with those as we advance the project. So the next steps, on the back of that feasibility study that we put out in January, we've been active working through project financing discussions. We're well into that now, through due diligence and that process that we're looking to kind of wrap up near the end of the year, with the goal of putting that broader project financing package in place end of Q1, early Q2. We'll put a component of it into place before the end of the year, which will allow us to kick off construction and development activities in Q1. And that would put us on track to be in production in late 2021, early 2022. So it's about a 2-year build. And we're aggressively advancing that timeline forward, looking to initiate construction next year and then following construction. We'll have, we're completing a further drill program as well in the south, so we'll have continued drill results as part of that. But the big catalyst will be, that construction and initiating construction and ultimately a project financing package. And here, I think, is just this slide illustrates the opportunity as you work through, your project financing and construction and into production. So there's some well-known names here that have successfully delivered projects, single developer assets, and you can see that the average share price increase over that time period has been almost 100%. And we believe that opportunity exists here with Bluestone as well. So I think I'm almost out of time, but just in summary, Cerro Blanco, it's a permitted high-grade advanced gold project, one of the highest gold head grade projects currently under development, with strong shareholder support that allow us to advance the project into construction and ultimately production. Thank you.